Welcome to the biggest airport in the United States, Denver International. Here, United Airlines operates one of its fastest growing hubs, and in this video, we'll show you everything that happens behind the scenes when you make a connection. We'll climb into a 757 to load bags, visit the ramp tower, drive an airplane tug, and a whole lot more in order to uncover this mind-blowing complexity and meet some of the people who make it all work.
Hello, Jet Setters. I'm Jeb Brooks from greenergrass.com. Have you ever wondered what happens when you're making a connection? Well, I've come to Denver International Airport and partnered with United Airlines to find out. Join me as we go behind the scenes.
Hub airports like Denver operate based on a simple but important concept called banks. Banks are when many flights arrive. Passengers transfer from one flight to their next. Then many more flights depart, all within an incredibly short period of time. Today, United averages more than 450 flights from Denver each day. That's in line with where they were pre-pandemic. By 2024, they plan to operate 700 daily departures here. Now, so much has to happen between when a plane touches down and when it's ready to head back to the runway. And you're about to see it all. But first, why is Denver such an important hub?
This hub is a really exciting place to be. So we've been here in Denver for 85 years. And we now have a huge operation. Geographically, this is a perfect place for a hub, right in the middle of this country, and allows our customers to connect in an easy way from east-west or up and down. So we're really in a good position for our customers to be able to have timely connections through the city. This really is a symphony of a bunch of different roles, and you're seeing some of that today, and hopefully you can illustrate some of that in this video. And the good thing about it is, when you're sitting in an airport, a lot of windows. You can look outside when that plane comes in, and you can see a little bit of that symphony taking place.
And I cannot wait to share this symphony with you. Turns out the friendly skies start on the ground. First, let's visit a part of the symphony you may already know well, the departure gate. This Dreamliner is about to head off to Frankfurt, and customer service agents are busy at work.
Please have your passports opened up to the photograph as you do board the aircraft. Once again, this is United Flight 182 with service to Frankfurt. Thank you.
In addition to keeping you updated with announcements like that, they're also working with passengers to confirm connections, check seat assignments, verify passports, and so much more. That's just when things are going smoothly. When they don't, the job becomes even more important and challenging.
Things don't always go well. Unfortunately, there are times when weather or maintenance or things out of our control impact our passengers, and we have to make sure that we show them that we still care about them. We still want to make their experience the best as possibly can.
Most people don't understand when we do have mechanical issues or anything like that we don't have spare airplanes here. It's not as easy as it seems to get another airplane. It's more the logistics, and you don't expect that from people.
There's more to this role than you get to see in the gatehouse. For example, it's up to customer service agents to move the jet bridge up to the plane. Talk about what just might be the most critical 15 feet in aviation, particularly for passengers making connections. And while the customer service agents interface with thousands of passengers each day, there's another part of this symphony, operating quietly, behind the scenes, upstairs, in the Station Operations Center, where loads of problems are solved, even before they happen.
We coordinate anything that happens at the airport that affects that aircraft, from landing of the aircraft, pulling into the gate to make sure it's marshaled in on time, and then we make sure it's loaded, that we make sure it's catered, serviced. If everything was perfect, we wouldn't be needed. It's never usually like that. I have been with United now 45 years, never like that.
And because things are predictably unpredictable, they've got all kinds of tools to keep track of planes and passengers. But here's my favorite, the gate board. It clearly displays everything in one place.
What I'm showing you here on these two screens that I'm pointing to is what we call our gate board. You'll see a bunch of what they call pucks. And the pucks, each one represents an aircraft. For example, this one is coming in from Boston, and then that aircraft is turning going back to Seattle.
And once Bob and his team and the SOC have ensured that Seattle flight is properly catered, that all the passengers and their baggage are on board, not to mention that it's been properly fueled, it's up to the ramp tower controllers to give the pilots permission to push back and begin to taxi out to the runway before talking to controllers in the FAA tower. It's here that the importance of banks really become clear.
We in the Denver United Ramp Tower, we're talking to the planes along the concourses pretty much. We've got 3 parallel concourses, A, B, and C. We're talking to them on the north side of B, the south side of B, and then coordinating with the city controllers. Between the banks, you look out and it's like there's just a tumbleweed blowing across. It seems like there's nothing going on and it's super quiet. But then in about 30 minutes, it goes from empty to completely packed. You can look out there and wonder how any plane is going to move, but it's just so impressive to watch the controllers work the banks because they find a way. They move the planes in and out.
Let's head outside to the catwalk to see the work in action. Now currently, United has 70 gates here, but the airline is investing $825 million to add even more of them. By 2023, they'll have up to 90. But let's take a look at just one gate to see how the banks work.
This United 737 is United 763. It's making its way over to O'Hare Airport. The pilots have just pressed a message on their ACARS system, sending a message up here to the ramp tower saying, hey, we're ready to push. So the jet bridge gets pulled back. The push tractor's now ready to push them back. Take a look at that United 737 pushing back to start its journey to O'Hare. Meanwhile, we're just looking at this one, but look, it's happening all up and down the concourse and the other side as well. This Airbus right there is actually going into the gate that 737 just left. So these things during this bank stay occupied or stay empty for like no time at all. The efficiency is so baked in to running an operation as complex as this. I love this stuff. All of this coordination, all these airplanes pushing and taxiing into their gates, it's all handled by one ramp controller. One person is in charge of making sure all of this happens. Talk about an incredibly fulfilling and complex job. Okay, so here comes the A320 that's going to be parking in the gate that the 737 to O'Hare just departed. Blooper reel, that's a 319. I thought it was a 320. Very different airplane. I know the difference. I'm just too excited. And there it is, ready for the passengers to deplane and make their next connection. The process continues, so that's sort of the way the bank works. Look, more 737s pushing right now.
What do you say we head down there and get even closer to the action? Out here on the ramp, workers are busy. We don't go anywhere without these professionals making it happen. Ramp workers are in charge of marshaling airplanes into gates, chocking the airplanes securely, offloading bags, and then loading more.
And that Airbus we saw come in earlier from Fort Lauderdale, it's turning around already, so the jet bridge is pulling back. It never stops. A ride in the tractor while he's pushing? I mean, yes. It's unbelievable. It's every day for you. This is crazy.
It's been just over an hour since we saw this A319 park. The airplanes only make money when they're flying, so airlines want to maximize the time they're in the air. But they also need to allow sufficient time for connecting passengers to reach their next flight. Here at Denver, about 60% of United's passengers arrive and continue on to another flight. The airline plans for each narrow-body airplane to remain on the ground for only around 60 minutes, and thanks to the hard work of so many in this symphony, this flight arrived and departed right on time.
Dude, thank you so much.
Anything, buddy.
That was awesome. I'm Jim, by the way.
I'm Frank.
Frank, thank you. That was incredible. That's the coolest job out here.
It is.
That A319 is now on its way to Boise, and what an incredibly smooth operation this whole thing is. It's thanks really to all the professionals like Frank who make it happen. If you're ever sitting up there in the gatehouse and you look out on the ramp, you'll notice there's paint everywhere on the ramp, and everything has a meaning down here. I want to show you a little bit of what that means. Red and white is the operational safety zone, so the airplane is inside the red line, and it's safe to move vehicles outside the red line on this side of the white line. So lining up an airplane properly for that jet bridge is a little bit more complicated than you might think. You can't just park it anywhere. So there again, there's paint that shows you exactly where to park depending on what kind of airplane you're marshaling in. Also marked parking areas for all of their various vehicles, and there are tons of vehicles out here. There are fuel trucks, there are baggage cars, there are tractors, there are these tow vehicles. There are so many on-the-ground vehicles out here that you got to know where to put them, and that's what these parking spots are for. But there's still more. Here's another jet bridge, and when they're parked, they need to be inside this yellow circle, and the red markings here are area for the jet bridge to move around, so you can't take any vehicles in there.
This 757's special livery was designed by Corinne Antonelli after she won a contest for female artists to turn an airplane into a canvas. I was excited when I saw baggage being loaded on board. After all, perhaps the most visible role for ramp workers is loading bags. It's easy to see this part of the symphony from inside the departure gate, and thanks to a new piece of equipment called a power stow, the job has become a bit more efficient. But how does it actually work?
What we used to do, because the pits are so long,
used to have, one throwing bags and the other one that would stack it. So this you could actually do with one less person because it's a belt that goes all the way deep in the pit, so the bag will roll right to you, and then you stack the pit. So it's way more efficient. It's actually easier and safer for the employee because they're not throwing, so they're just like lifting and stacking.
Now, welcome to the cargo hold of a 757-200. The bags are getting loaded up for this flight to La Hui.
The bags are loaded down below on the ramp and then scanned so you know using the United app when your bag's loaded on board. They're then delivered right to another ramp worker who stacks them. But that's only one of many jobs ramp workers have here.
You may be familiar with the idea of a pilot walk-around. They'll come down and check the airplane before departure. Well, the ramp workers do the same thing, checking for dents or maybe fuel caps that weren't replaced. So it's a secondary check before departure.
It's time for these ramp workers to take on yet another role, a role these passengers are probably pretty excited about since it means they're one step closer to Hawaii.
It's always a good sign when you're on a plane, you look out the window and you see the wing walkers show up. It means you're about to go. And that's the same for this flight to La Hui. Let's watch it push back.
There can be no doubt about it. Meeting the professionals here at United Airlines in Denver who dedicate themselves each day in the face of relentless challenges to working hard so that passengers like you and me, more often than not, experience smooth layovers. Too often, one bad experience with a misconnection or other irregular operation colors our view of air travel. But the reality is, professionals like Terrell and Frank, or Bob and Matt, and so many others actually prevent countless problems before they occur. So, next time you're flying, say thanks to a gate agent or give a wave to a ramp worker. It was time for the ramp tower to give permission to taxi to the 757. Their trip to La Hui, well, it begins right now.
Between now and the next time, see you at the airport.